Hey there, Ritual here to give a big shout out to you for making it through the hectic holiday season. The magic of those family moments, that was you. And now there's new milestones to prep for in 2025. This new year, check clean, quality pregnancy nutrient support off your to-do list with Ritual. We've done the research to create science-backed pregnancy support like our prenatal multivitamin, natal choline, and fertility support, all designed to be taken alongside each other. But don't just take our word for it. They're also third-party tested for microbes and heavy metals and Clean Label Project certified. So whether you're trying, thinking about trying, or already there, we don't have to tell you that prioritizing yourself can be the hardest part. That's why we're helping you get started today with 30% off a 3-month supply for a limited time at ritual.com/podcast. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Hey guys, I'm Giulio Gallerati, and this is Oops the Podcast. We would love to collab with you. Our listeners love Oops for its sophisticated banter, aka your mom could listen, and many feel like they're in the room with us chopping it up with old pals. And pals, we are indeed. I'm joined every episode by my producer and confidant, Ryan Lynch, various comedians, and other interesting people for witty, candid, and intoxicating conversation. Join us.
Hello to everybody who just moved off the coast. It's Beautiful Anonymous. 1 hour, 1 phone call. No names, no holds barred.
I'd rather go one-on-one. I think it'll be more fun, and I'll get to know you, and you'll get to know me.
Hi, everybody. If you are not a fan of intros, I get it. This one's not that long. I think if you skip about 4 or 5 minutes ahead, you'll be right towards the beginning of the call. Thanks so much. Hey everybody, it's Chris, and before we get into today's episode, I wanted to let you know there's something cool happening in my non-Beautiful Anonymous creative life. I think if you've been listening for a while, you've picked up on the fact that I haven't been as deeply in love with or devoted to comedy as I used to be. And some of that, I think, is just about the culture of comedy the past few years, and I decided to do something about it. So I started a new show. It's called That Show, hosted by Chris Gethard. It's at the UCB Theater in New York, which is where I came up. And I have to tell you, something really lovely happened, which is that we announced it was happening, and the live tickets for the first one sold out. The first one is happening January 29th. This episode is dropping January 28th, 2025. You can get live stream tickets, though. If you go to punchup.live/Chris Gethard, you'll see you can go, and for $10, watch this show, 10 p.m. Wednesday night. You can watch it, I think, anywhere in the world. If you can't watch it while it's happening, you can watch it for up to a week afterwards. I think that's the deal. And I'm just trying to bring together a bunch of comics who are good and hardworking and have good heads on their shoulders and good hearts, and people who are maybe a little more experimental, who don't fit neatly into specific genres. And there will be bands, and it's all $10. And I started to realize, I think comedy lately, and I'm not mad at anybody about this, it's dominated by the TikTok algorithm, by what plays well on Instagram. There's a lot of very aggressive podcasts out there in comedy. There's a lot of crowd work clips. And I sort of think that there's certain types of comedians, and certainly a certain type of audience member, that just isn't going to spend a bunch of money on a ticket if you might go to a show and someone might point the camera at you and make fun of you and then post it on TikTok for people to click like. I just think there's a lot of people who go, I guess comedy's not my thing. Well, I'm trying to bring back the types of shows that I came up in where that would never happen. That would be regarded as mean and kind of hacky. So we're just trying to do something different. Some bands, some comedians. There's a few people who are talking about dropping by to the show on the 29th, where if they drop by, I think it will be legendary. And New Yorkers sold it out in person January and February. March is about to sell out. I haven't even announced the lineup. It lets me know I think there's people out there who are going, oh, the idea of comedy where we know someone we trust is curating the whole show, and the goals are to let people be experimental, let the crowds relax, keep the show cheap, listen to some music, listen to some jokes. People seem to be into it. So I would love it if you wanted to check out the live stream. You can get a ticket over at punchup.live/Chris Gethard. You can watch it live Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, or you can watch it at your leisure for a week after that. Check it out. See what you think. I think it's the type of comedy show that beautiful Anonymous fans might enjoy. And I thank you for helping me to even be able to say that. We're actually, for the first time in a long time, we got a little bit of a buffer. We're a couple weeks ahead. So I just wanted to make sure I said it as soon as possible in the course of our recordings, that my heart goes out to everyone in the greater Los Angeles area. As I'm recording this, the fires are still going strong. My hope is that by the time you hear this, they are no longer as much of a factor, although obviously they will have an impact for many, many years to come. I have friends who are personally affected by it. I also see all the first responders out there, and am so impressed at people traveling far and wide to help. And, you know, it's so strange to know people who straight up lost their houses in a thing I'm reading about as national news. It's really sad, really scary, and my heart goes out to everybody. And again, we've had an episode come out since the fire started that had already been recorded, and this is my first chance to just say, wow. And especially for our listeners, I am sure that there are some people in the area being personally affected, and I hope you can feel how genuine it is, that it's not just chatter, it's not just online buzz. Everybody has their eye on it, and everybody's hearts are bleeding for the people of Southern California right now. And I know that doesn't mean much when your house burned down, but I hope it means something. I hope you know that everybody out there is with you. Okay. I don't think we need to belabor the point. I got to say thanks to everybody who's been signing up at beautifulanonymous.com. You get your episodes ad-free. You get extra time with each caller. If you sign up at the top tier, once a month you get a secret phone number. You get a follow-up call. This month we're about to record a call with our old friend who's recorded tens of thousands of songs. One of the earliest callers in the show's history, an early breakout caller who just keeps the momentum going. Can't wait to catch up with that guy. Back then he wrote 18,000 songs, but I would never disrespect him by saying a mere 18,000. We'll find out how many songs he's up to over at beautifulanonymous.com. And again, thanks to everybody. Also, thanks to everybody who, I decided to stop touring. It's wearing on me physically. I don't like all the time away from Cal, Hallie, and, I'm not that worried about the dog. Really, Cal and Hallie. But I said, you know what, maybe I'll just do like a monthly show in New York and get back in that hosting vein. And the January show sold out in minutes. The February show sold out the first week of January. And I hear that there's actually ticket sales for March are flying right now. Thank you to everybody who's been filling out those shows in New York. I'm feeling that love in a way I haven't felt in a few years. It means the world to me. If you want to come in March, you better grab a ticket now. And there's streaming tickets. You can watch from anywhere in the world. punchup.live/Chris Gethard. And thanks to everybody so much. It's really meaningful to me that you're all supporting. This week's episode, I love it. I love this caller. We talk early in the call. I said the caller has a youthful energy. She says, well, I sound younger than I am. And I said, no, it's the energy though. And I think everyone will agree. Yes, there's a youthful energy here. The call goes in so many weird directions that I find it hard to even say what it's about. It's about moving to a new city. It's about exploring why you were feeling the stress that compelled you to leave your old city. It's about loss. It's about a million things. If anyone's going to get a good taste of the madcap nature of how conversations work between this caller and I don't want to plug it too many times, but over at beautifulanonymous.com, you guys will hear we always do 5 questions with the caller. The first question, the answer is 11 minutes long. And by the end, you will be amazed at how far away from the original question the answer is. And that kind of sums up the whole thing to me. It's the caller starts with a sentence that for a lot of the people who have been listening from the beginning, she says something that is a lot of people's favorite thing to hear on this show, which is, I have no idea what I'm going to talk about today. And we just go. And we just go. We talk about glass floats, and we talk about all sorts of things. And man, I really enjoyed it. It's one of those calls that I defy anyone to just write in a single sentence. Here's what this one's about. It's about the nature of art. It's about sexy clowns and their impact on comedy that the mainstream hasn't realized yet. It's about glass floats. It's about wiener dogs. It's about so many different things, but mostly it's just about connecting with someone who has a really vibrant personality and a real ability to get me giggling. And I enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoy it too.
Thank you for calling Beautiful Anonymous. A beeping noise will indicate when you are on the show with the host.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. Is this a recording again?
No, this is actually me responding to you.
Oh, hi. Okay.
That would be cruel if we had people trying to get through and then we just had like a dummy fake out beginning just to mess
Well,
with you,
maybe,
just
like,
psychologically keep you disarmed. Yeah.
I don't know. That would have got me hyped up.
How are you?
Just a warning. I'm okay. I don't know what to talk about, though.
That's okay. That's okay. We'll coast.
Okay.
We'll coast on vibes.
Okay.
Yeah, I like your vibe. You've got an energy to you that I appreciate. A youthful spirit and a playful nervousness. These are the things I'm gauging right away.
That's nice. Okay, that's nice. Can I tell you something? I'm 36. I'm old.
You're a young
But
36.
I have a high-pitched voice. Okay, thanks. Okay, good.
Some of that's just also just energy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. We got 58 minutes left. 58 minutes and 40 seconds left.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can fill it with whatever you want. Where should we begin?
Okay. Okay. I'll just describe my surroundings. Is that?
Sounds like a great place to start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm in my room. I have a little apartment, and there's snow outside.
Mhm.
So outside's covered in snow. Let's see. I'm in a little apartment room. It's full of antiques. Okay, wait. I have an idea. Is this okay?
Anything's okay.
Can I tell you about just an object in front of me?
Yeah. See if you can describe an object
Okay.
for 57 minutes and 54 seconds. I won't interrupt.
Okay, good. So I have these. Okay. Man, I'm so bad at this.
You're crushing it.
Is this the worst caller you've ever had?
Not even close.
Okay, good. Let's see. So I have these glass floats on my mantle. So I live in a living room that's been converted into a bedroom, right? So there's a mantle above my bed, and there's these glass floats, hand blown, decorative glass floats on the mantle. Because I grew up on the Oregon coast, and in this small coastal town that I grew up in, it was a tourist draw to blow these glass floats and hide them on the beach. So I have all of them, and they have stamps of the dates that they were found on the bottom. So I have this collection of these glass floats. And can I tell you something that I feel guilty about? And if you get bored, just interrupt me and I'll just change the subject.
Okay.
Okay. So I live in Chicago, and I used to live in Oregon. I moved from Oregon to Chicago recently. And I had to sell all my stuff because I just moved in my car. And I had this like big box of these glass floats. I had like 80 of them. And they were from, my dad had a bunch made from his hotel on the coast. And he's dead now. So I just had this box of these like small glass floats. I didn't know what to do with them. So I was moving and I put them on Facebook Marketplace for like $80, I think, for the box. And then I get my DMs are like flooded with all these people that wanted them. So I just responded to the first like lady. And I thought, and then she was like haggling on the price. And I was like, oh no, is she trying to like scam me? Because then somebody else told me like, oh, those are worth like $30 a piece. And you're selling them for $1 a piece.
What is a glass float? What is it?
Okay, so you know how there's like old like fishing nets, right, in the ocean?
Yeah.
And so like they'll use like plastic buoys to hold them up, or there's these like old, like, I don't know, like there are these round glass balls.
So like a
that
globe,
are filled with air, and they're used to like
a
hold
globe shape. That
yeah,
and
exactly.
To help a fishing net
and
float?
they're used to hold up fishing nets. So this little coastal town that I'm from did like this tourist thing where they hired a local art studio to like make them, but make them colorful.
Yeah.
And then they like hid them on the beach for like people to find, so people would come visit the town.
And now you got somebody
these,
haggling,
like,
but you got somebody else telling you, hey, you're severely undervaluing these. And you got somebody else going, how about 50 cents instead of $1?
Yeah. And so I'm like, oh no, I'm being taken advantage of on these things that I shouldn't even really be selling because they're my dad's and he's dead and I feel bad, you know. But I got to sell them. They won't fit in my car.
And I imagine trying to ship those, half of them are going to wind up shattered anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there was a choice. They had to go.
Yeah.
And so the person comes to get them.
The first person?
And it's a girl. The person that I was like, the person who I told them $1 a piece to. I was like, no, firm on $1 a piece. I already told her, so just come get them. I'm like, man, I really let myself get taken advantage of with this. So they show up, and it's a 19-year-old girl, and her mom just died of the same kind of cancer that my dad died from. And she used to go with her mom to this little town that I'm from and look for these floats on the beach. So they reminded her when she saw them, she was like, oh, my mom would want me to get these.
So it was sentimental for her in a way that related directly to how giving them away was sentimental to you.
Yeah, it was like perfect. It was like, oh, I don't have to feel bad. We both have dead parents. This means what this meant to me. Now it means this to you. And then we got into this emotional kind of text back and forth over Facebook Messenger, over the marketplace. And then she was like, gosh, you know, nobody's really even been like very nice to me or like willing to talk to me since my, you know, mom died. I haven't really had anyone to open up to, and this has been so nice. And what was your dad's name? And then I was in the middle of moving, and I just never responded to her. And this was like a year ago.
What?
And I feel so bad. Yeah,
I loved that story up until the end.
I know.
I loved that story, and then you dropped the ball so hard. Go answer her.
I know, and I I can't. It's been a year. I can't wait on. Like, I think of every time I see those floats, I'm like, God damn, I'm such an asshole.
You gotta message
But
this
like
girl.
now I can't.
What
A
are you
year
doing?
later on Marketplace.
Yeah, you gotta be like, OMG, don't know how I missed this one. Anyway, here's my dad's name. How are you? You just ghosted the girl? That story was so sweet until the end when you turned into the absolute villain of the story. Because her perspective is she's just sitting there like, oh, I guess you got your dollar thing and now, all right,
Yeah.
I guess we're not friends.
Yeah.
You were in it for the cash the whole time.
No, I wasn't.
I'm saying that's what she thinks.
I know.
You got to message her like today.
Okay. What do I say? Tell me what.
Are you near a computer right now?
Yeah, it would take too long to pull it up to find it. But if you tell me, I'll send it. I swear. I'll send it today. This is so good. Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
This is a secret that I've held in me for the last year because I felt so
listen.
sad because it was so serendipitous. And then
it's the type of magical thing that people hope will happen to them, and then it happened to you, and you were like, anyway, I'm going to Chicago Peace. Now listen, at the end of the day, it's not that bad, but it is bad. But it's not as bad as you're probably emotionally feeling, but it is a little cold. If I were you, I can solve this one for you right now. You ready?
Okay, this is so good. Wait, no, you have to let me get a pen real quick.
Yeah, get a pen and I'll tell you exactly what to say. This is what I do. I solve problems like this. Yeah.
Okay, what do I say?
You say, I don't know why, but I found myself randomly thinking of our interaction today. Went to reread our old messages and was aghast to see that I somehow missed your last one and dropped the ball. I often find myself wondering how you are, how things are going for you in your grieving process. I moved to Chicago a while ago. I'm enjoying the new pace of things, although admittedly, it's also part of why it's probably also part of how I managed to drop the ball so hard on our communication. Hope that you're doing well and healing up, and that the floats I sold you are still bringing some warm feelings. Listen to Beautiful Anonymous wherever you get your podcasts. Add that part at the end. Hosted by comedian Chris Gethard.
You must kill it at Christmas cards.
I tell you what, I'm not I don't pat myself on the back too hard, and I often drop the ball on a lot of personal relationships, but my wife does give me a lot of credit where she's like, there are sometimes things that are hard to sit down and write that would take me or most people 2 or 3 hours to think of what to say, and you can just sit down and go, what's the thing I need to get across? Let me just type that and send it. My wife gives me a lot of credit as far as you're good at just putting an awkward thing out there and getting it over with.
Yeah, that's
and
perfect.
Phrasing it in a way. Just tell a little white lie that you forgot, that you somehow dropped the ball and forgot. And then just say, I find myself thinking of you sometimes. I hope you're well. Boom.
Okay.
Yeah. And she probably won't write you back ever, but at least you'd get to stop feeling guilty about it.
And she'll know, and she won't, because sometimes you go through a tragedy or something, and then your view on the world gets a little calloused, and so if that's the state she's in, it'll make her feel a little better.
Or she might write back and be like, hey, also all of my aunts and uncles have since died as well, and I really could have used someone to talk to, and there was a brief fleeting moment where I thought maybe you could be that person, but if you didn't even want to answer me on a Facebook Marketplace thread that seemed like fate was handing us each other as confidants, I felt like fuck it, and that's why I turned to a life of crime and drugs and depravity. And at that point, you should honestly just get off of Facebook.
Okay.
At that point, just get
Okay.
off of Facebook.
Okay, that was fun. How many more minutes do we have?
Let me go ahead and check right now. Let's see. 46. We have 46 minutes left.
Okay. Should I do another object or?
Yeah. Let's keep just going object to object in your room. Also, who do you live with in Chicago? Roommates, partner? Who are you living with?
I have a roommate. He's in the bedroom and I'm in the makeshift bedroom next to him.
Did you guys
We
move?
moved here together.
You did move there together. How did you know each other prior to this?
Well, this is kind of embarrassing. We both do stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
So we did stand-up comedy in there, and then we moved and do it here. So
that's a good place to be. And listen, I think there's a lot of people on the show who are used to aspiring comedians calling me, but at least this is stand-up. Usually I get improv kids calling. And I like the improv people too.
Oh, yeah.
But that's a change of pace.
Yeah.
You do
Well,
improv
they're probably
as well,
better
don't
at
you?
the back and forth. No, no. I make fun of those people.
That's going to come back.
But
Improv's
no, I'm
coming
kidding.
back.
I don't, but
Improv's coming back, and all the stand-ups that have been talking shit about improv are going to be like, oh, now I want to jump on these hybrid shows because improv's getting cool again. And I've been out here talking shit.
I think it's cool. I really want to take one of the clowning classes.
This clowning stuff is taking over. And people in America need to understand that clowns are starting to take over underground American comedy. And a lot of us who didn't come up in a culture of clowning are very intrigued by it. I find myself pretty impressed by a lot of it, but also thoroughly confused. Because Andrea is even right now in our document quoting me on, quote, clowns are starting to take over. But you can vouch for me, my friend in Chicago. The outsized influence of renegade clowns on alternative comedy the past 5 years came out of nowhere and is a sweeping sensation. True or false?
True.
And Andrea is now quoting me as saying renegade clowns as if I'm saying outlandish. But if you look into it, there are avant-garde renegade clowns leaving their fingerprints all over the alt scene of America. It really started over in Europe, mostly with the Edinburgh Festival, and then started showing up in LA and New York. And now you're telling me the clowns have found their way to Chicago. And there's a for anybody out here who's like, he must be exaggerating. No, there's an avant-garde renegade. I'll even go so far as to say a strangely sexual punk rock clown movement happening in underground American comedy right now. Sexy renegade clowns.
Yeah. That's also, you just made it so much cooler than what I just was like, they make you, so I wanted to take a class, like a clowning class.
Yeah.
They're all sold out in the entire city.
You can't get a slot in a sex clown class right now. These sex clowns, you got to get on a waiting list.
You do, yeah. Yeah, there's not even a waiting list. There's just like, sold out till February, check back in March.
That's it.
So you can't.
And then what's and this is true, and we're going down a deep rabbit hole that almost no one listening will care about. What you're also starting to hear is that the demand for the clowning classes and opportunities is so high that there are now substandard clowns who have started to teach their own clowning classes to try to monetize the vacuum of the supply and demand. And that you're starting to hear now there's even some inter-scene. Even I'm catching wind. Me being old man alt comedy out in New Jersey. You're starting to hear about these sort of like inter-clown tensions as far as like the clowns who studied in France or studied with the people who studied in France going, wait, why are these clowns who have a tenuous connection to the French clowns? What gives them the gall to teach, the chutzpah to teach? And you're starting to hear about some tension amongst the renegade sexual clowns. All this being said, Stamptown is a great show, and Natalie Palomita, Courtney Peroso, Christina Catherine Martinez. These are very, very intriguing artists who are part of that scene and who I have great love and respect for. But man, you're hearing a lot of drama coming out of this renegade sexual clown comedy world.
I was so I was told
Warned. You
that
almost
there
said
was
warned.
like one. Well, I was told it felt like, you know what? Because I was told like take this workshop,
Yeah.
don't take the others. Don't. This is the real one.
I've heard
Don't
a lot of
trust.
debate about what constitutes real clowning right now. It's very
I don't.
strange
It's
thing
you know,
happening.
it kind of reminds me of when somebody's like, "Go to my church. All the other ones are made up."
Yeah, a little bit. And improv went through it as well with like the guruism and the wait, this one versus that one. So I've lived through it. I've also heard that there's a very prominent clown teacher who's very, very good, but that taking their classes is almost akin to the experience of learning drums from the teacher in the movie Whiplash, which, if you remember it, is not being brought up as like a healthy or positive experience. But there is one clowning teacher who has a reputation of like, you go and you learn from that clown and like you'll become a really good clown, but you're gonna emotionally break as part of the process because the classes are so intense, which I gotta say sounds intimidating to me.
Man, it sounds like it's worth the $300 for the 8-week program. Is what it sounds like.
We're gonna go ahead. We're gonna pause there because in one that's going in so many directions, you just pick a place, you do your ads. We'll be right back. I've noticed with Cal that money does not apply to him in the same way it did when I was a kid. You can hear the big pause in there because I don't even know how to explain it. He's lost his first 2 teeth. We put quarters under his pillow. $2 a tooth. Severe inflation. That's 100% inflation from when I was a kid. But he took it out and went, I got 8 monies. And I had to explain to him, well, those are quarters and 4 of them are $1. So you have $2. He goes, no, I have 8. I don't have 2. And I started to realize, now he's 5. He'll learn this in time. But I also started to realize he never sees me spend cash. He sees me swipe things on a card. He very rarely has a relationship with physical money anymore. And it was eye-opening to see the first time he got money of his own that he didn't really know how to verbalize what was going on. I also tell you, I remember growing up making a lot of mistakes. I was so bad at math and so scared to learn about how finance worked that I had no credit deep into my 20s. And when I went to buy a home, I couldn't do it. The first time I tried to buy a home I was around 31 years old. I had been on a sitcom and I had a bunch of money for the first time. I said, what's the smart thing you do? I've always heard what you're supposed to do is buy a house. They said, you have no credit. I said, well, I've never had a credit card because I've always been scared because I've never totally understood how that whole system works. I've always just paid for things with checks and cash when I have the money. And they said, well, you need to get to work. And it was a nightmare. Having no credit was worse than having bad credit. It turned out it was bad. Anyway, it's why I'm so excited to tell you about Acorns Early. Acorns Early is a smart money app and debit card for kids that helps them learn the value of money. This is crucially important right now. As the father of a 5-year-old, I can tell you, this is the type of thing that some people it's going to pay dividends their whole life, not just financially, but because they're going to understand what's happening. You can set up chores in the app. You set a payment amount. You tick the chore off when it's done. Acorn Early's Chores Tracker teaches kids that hard work pays off. Acorns Early lets parents pay allowances automatically. So that way, too, if you're someone who doesn't have a lot of cash on you now, you don't have to scramble around looking for it. You can automatically send a weekly allowance to your kid's account with just a few taps, and kids can spend what they earn with their very own debit card. This gives them a sense of independence. They get to choose from 35 customizable card designs. So there's some of the aspects of it that kids are really going to love on that level. And most importantly, parents can keep track of where and when their kids are spending. You get real-time updates on that. You can set spending limits. You can block lost or stolen cards. And you can turn saving into a habit. Kids can get used to how the real world works early, can start setting up savings goals. They can choose target dates, turn on an autosave feature, all sorts of things that is the actual reality of the financial world these kids will be entering someday. They get to start learning it young. It's awesome. Grow your kids' money skills with bite-sized financial lessons. The Acorns Early app has tons of fun, interactive courses that help kids learn about all things money. I think Acorns Early is really important. I think that all of us who are parents right now of young kids, we grew up in a world where commerce was just done differently than it is now. The way we were taught, that's not how it's going to be for our kids. So the idea that Acorns Early is out here building a system so you can teach not just fiscal responsibility to your kid, but also the methodology of how it actually works to be out there in the world paying for stuff. I think it's an incredibly smart, forward-thinking program, and I think kids' lives will be better for it because they're going to learn how to go out there and navigate the world. It's really cool. It's really smart. Ready to help your kids learn the value of money? Just head to acornsearly.com/beautiful or download the Acorns Early app to get started. Sign up now, and your first month is on Acorns. T&Cs apply. Monthly subscription fee starting from $5 per month unless canceled. We all take supplements, or at least we know we should, but why are so many supplement companies charging ridiculous prices for products that are not that special? It makes it hard to navigate what you're doing. It makes it hard to know who to trust. It's frustrating. Frankly, it's unacceptable. And that's why I want to introduce you to Live Good, a brand that's turning the supplement industry on its head. Live Good believes that everyone deserves access to high-quality supplements without the insane markups. They offer premium products formulated by an industry-leading team of natural health experts, and they cut out the middleman to sell them at the lowest prices anywhere. I think Live Good is incredible. Everything I've used from them is quality. I think we all know that there's a lot of this supplement world right now. People are floating a lot of ads out left and right, and then sometimes you go, I'm going to make these changes in my health, and you get them, and it is junk, and it is cheap, and it makes it hard for you to feel enthusiasm about this exact type of self-improvement that you know you need. Live Good is out here with organic super greens, with multivitamins, with collagen, with weight loss products, protein powder. That's the one I've been using. This protein powder I got from them is a plant-based protein powder. And I'm not going to lie, I've used other plant-based protein powders since I went vegetarian, and they are generally a necessary evil. It's not pleasant to consume them. The one I got from Live Good legitimately tastes good to the point where I drink it as a morning shake and I look forward to it, which is rare. Total game changer. There's also creatine, detox products, hormone products, skincare products, all highest quality products at prices people can actually afford. And it is no wonder that Live Good is the fastest growing supplement brand on the planet with over 1.5 million customers and counting. Ready to make the switch and start saving? We'll make it even easier for you. Use our link and you can save an additional 10% off your first order on top of the already lowest prices. Just go to livegood.com/beautiful. You'll save 10% on your first order. That's livegood.com/beautiful. Don't miss out on this opportunity to invest in your health without overspending. Thanks again to our advertisers. Now, let's go ahead and get back to the phone call.
Man, it sounds like it's worth the $300 for the 8-week program. Is what it sounds like.
I do. How do you feel though that you and me linking up on this is probably the first, because a lot of the listeners to Beautiful Anonymous are not comedy. I slid from comedy over to this strange. This platform went in some directions I never saw coming. I think in the comedy world, even a lot of mainstream club comedians have only vaguely heard of the clowns. In alt comedy, everybody knows that the clowns are coming. And you and I may be providing the most behind-the-scenes look at clowning's mounting influence on American alternative comedy than that most mainstream listeners have heard of. A lot of people might be going, what the fuck are these two talking about? No, we're telling you. We're telling you. Two people who don't know each other, who are in different cities, are telling you the influence of clowning. And it's not clowns with red noses. It's not clowns with wigs and floppy feet. It's like clowns in like BDSM bondage gear. And I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
Not always.
Correct.
But it's more like steampunk BDSM imagery than
Yeah.
Bozo the Clown honking a horn. It's not that anymore.
It's weird.
It's,
I'm excited
I like
for
it.
that because there's supposed to be a whole thing about just learning to exist in your space.
Yeah,
That's what I'm in it for.
I like that.
And like existing in the silence
Yeah.
and all of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Now, you did stand up in Oregon?
Yeah, I did it in Oregon.
I bet we have mutual
and then
friends.
Oh yeah, we probably know. We probably do.
At the Great Kickstand Theater. Did you ever do the Kickstand?
Yeah, I did. I did do Kickstand. I helped with the startup. Well, you probably don't know about it, but there's like a big park show there.
Of course, that Jaron used to
That's
host.
like in the park. Yeah. Okay. So yeah,
I've done shows
we
with
have mutual
Jaron.
people.
And Dylan. Do you know Dylan Reef?
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Dylan.
Dylan's great.
Dylan is a friend of mine, and Dylan is like helps run. I mean, does a lot of immersive theater stuff. Helps run the Kickstand Theater. But I think even a lot of people in his current circle aren't aware that he executed a project called Velocity Gnome, which, if you look it up, is one of the strangest and coolest art projects I've ever heard of, and that I've personally been inspired by in indescribably massive
What is
ways. I don't want to spoil it. Just go Google Velocity Gnome. It probably could not be done today, but basically when Dylan was in college, he wound up doing a project that I would argue perfectly used the internet as the internet existed in that exact moment to fuck with one individual human being in a way that is probably emotionally dangerous and ill-advised, and people shouldn't try to replicate, but that also is predicated over and over again on this person. You can basically go read the first person perspective of the person that Velocity Gnome happened to, as he explains what it's like to have people mysterious people on the internet inserting themselves into your lives in a way that's really uncomfortable, but where for some reason his instinct was to just keep going, sure. And then they kept having to go, oh, he keeps saying yes. I guess we now have to take it even further. If we buy a plane ticket, will this person get on a plane? He's on the goddamn plane. Okay. When he lands, who's going to meet him? What's going to happen? Okay. If he did that, will he do this? And then the guy keeps just saying like, no, all right. Yeah. Let's see what happens next, in a way that's actually dangerous. And I've thought about ways there's actually a lot of ways in which my work was really heavily influenced by Velocity Gnome, but where I was always aware of, man, they also got really, really lucky because they were really messing with this guy. It's really amazing.
But he just went along with it?
Velocity Gnome, anyone listening to this podcast, if you go and read up on it, let me actually even see if the website's still up. If you go to thefutureshock.com, the guy wrote 6-part series of what it was like. They basically, I've already spoiled so much of it, but basically, this guy writes this internet account of people basically started contacting him completely out of the blue, referring to him as if he was a time traveler from the future and a hero in the future. And they were so happy they had located him. And basically, randomly out of nowhere, made him the main character of an immersive game that he had not signed up for and had no knowledge was happening. And it's fucking brilliant. And one of the many things in life that I sit here and I go, I think it is known in internet circles, but it's one of the many things in life that I sit here and I go, art should be more influenced by Velocity Gnome. And I don't get why it's not. Now, maybe that's part of why I haven't been more successful as a mainstream entertainer, because I sit here and I go, the bar is set by Velocity Gnome. We should all be figuring out how to make people the individual main player in a game that they didn't know existed before they were the main character of it. And then I go and I try to think of that and be inspired by that. And people look at me and go, This is Hulu. We want the bear. You got anything like the bear, but set in a nursing home instead of a restaurant? And I go, no. What about an immersive game? And they go, get out. But I love things like that. And I do love the clowns. I was messing with the clowns a little bit, and the clowns might catch wind of that. But I also am always inspired to see artists push the envelope, and I'm glad that people are shaking it up. And I also think in a world where improv got to be viewed as a little too expensive and in some ways a pyramid scheme, which I think is actually swinging back, I do think the clowns are providing a space for the people who want to try to be experimenters and troublemakers that improv used to be a little bit more for. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm glad we went down this rabbit hole, because I've also been reading up a lot lately on freight train graffiti and mail art and people who use these existing systems as the gallery, the unauthorized galleries to have art travel far distances. I think about these things a lot, and it's nice to stumble into this conversation with you.
Yeah, I remember when I was like 17, I moved out on I just dropped out of high school. I moved out on my own, and I never did it, but I was so lonely that I really wanted to just look up people's addresses in the phone book, because it was 20 years ago, and just mail them.
Yeah, you could do that.
How my day was, and just see if they mailed me back. And I chickened out, and there was no reason not to. You know what? Like, you just think about the artificial lines of communicate. I mean, it's not just communication. There's like a million ways that we have the weird ways that we like segment ourselves. And just the artificial lines that we don't cross with communicating. That
I also love that you brought up the phone book. Younger listeners, I feel like actually one of the major cultural differences, and you're probably at the lowest end of people who actively use the phone book age-wise at 36. People in their 20s right now would probably be aghast to know there used to be a book where everyone in America, at least, had their name, address, and phone number printed in books. And if you lived in a local area, and I lived right around the corner from my grandfather. So my dad's name starts with K, my grandfather started with L. And I had many times, especially in middle school, as my grandfather started to get insane, where kids would come to school in like 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade and be like, dude, I talked on the phone with your grandfather for like 45 minutes last night. And I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, well, I had to call you about
He would just call them?
They'd be like, well, they'd go, I had to call you about something with school, and I went to call you, and then I looked at it, and it was the same. Like, I know those streets are right next to each other, and I couldn't remember which one you lived on, so I had to pick. So I called L. Gethard, and your grandfather picked up and wouldn't let me get off the phone. And like, we talked for like 40 minutes. And I was like, oh, that's wild. I'm sorry about that. But this idea of like, your privacy is important, protect it. We used to print our names, addresses, and phone numbers in a book. And the book, you didn't have to even pay money to get it. They just give it to you. And you could go to many payphones and it would just be sitting there.
Yeah.
I loved it. The old phone book.
Well, I don't want to, it doesn't occur to me. My roommate didn't know, and it doesn't, but it's like every once in a while it occurs to me that, but he didn't know. He was like, wait, so, because he was like signing up for electronic transfer, and he's like, wait, it's just the number on the check, and then you can just put money in and out? And I was like, yeah, it's just that number. It's a little crazy how much we just, even now though, to share information. Anytime I have to share my banking information, I'm like, anyone that just has this.
Yeah, it's not great.
I don't know.
That's not a great system.
It's just,
Some might
Okay.
say to
Can
the
I?
Anyway, yes,
Okay.
let's focus back up on you. We've gone down this art rabbit hole, clowning, velocity
No,
known,
we can rabbit hole.
our mutual
This
friends
is
in Oregon.
yeah. That's so cool. That's so cool. You've been to that show and that. Okay, wait. Can I? I don't. Is at the park? It's the park show that you know about.
Yeah, I never
I'm just
did it.
connecting. I'm just making it. Oh well, then never mind.
Well, but I know one of the people who used to host it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you did it, and I was like, oh, the stage you stood on was like the exercise mats out of my garage because it was COVID when we started it, like right after COVID.
Ooh.
It was just kind of a makeshift thing. Okay.
I wish I had done it because
ahead.
I heard it was a hot show, and I've seen pictures of
Yeah,
hundreds of people
fun.
in the park. But
it comes back every summer.
Yeah, I can't claim
people
that I
and their
actually did
dogs.
it. That's nice.
Okay, so I have like this is a story in my family, and some of it's probably a little apocryphal, and everybody that I can ask is dead. So who knows? So it's just true now, because that's right. I think there's no one you can ask. It's true. So I'm going to tell you this. Can I tell you another story?
Tell me a story that I cannot confirm. I love that.
Okay, great. Perfect. So the tiny coastal town where I'm from, my dad, I have a dead dad, and he's highly influential. So he likes to tell me this story about how they were trying to draw tourism to the town in a way that didn't cost any money. And so my dad was on city council, and he was like, what if we became kite capital of the world? Then people would come. We could have a big kite festival, and people would come to watch you fly kites on the beach. And they were like, well, how do you become the kite capital, the capital of the world for anything? So they called up another town, and I don't remember the name of the town. I have no idea what it is. I think it's maybe in Oregon or I don't know. But they called it the Artichoke Capital of the world.
Okay.
And they said, how did you become the Artichoke Capital of the world? And they were like, we said we are. No one checks. We just said we are. And that's it. And so then the town I'm from, this is like the 80s, just became the kite capital of the world because they just said they were. And they had a big kite festival. And one of the guys invented some kind of windsock that goes really fast. So they did like a publicity stunt where the sheriff came out and gave the windsock a speeding ticket for how fast it goes. And that's the story. But then I was like, my dad would do it as a life advice. That was his philosophy. Yeah, like I used to call it the Artichoke Capital of the World philosophy of life, which is just that you don't need permission. If you have an idea, you just do it. Whatever you conceptualize, there aren't any rules.
I like that.
Anyway.
You build your own infrastructure. You set your own boundaries.
Yeah.
I love that.
Now,
can I ask you a very random question? And if it will be, it will be unbelievable. If the answer is yes, and if it's no, we'll just move on. I have other questions. Is there any way that you grew up in an area of coastal Oregon where you happen to know about a somewhat popular but not that popular July 4th event that involves wiener dogs racing on the beach?
No.
Okay. Fair.
That's so cool.
Well, I have some friends who were in this town once on July 4th, and there were wiener dog races.
Okay.
And they randomly volunteered to grab mics and be the announcers on the wiener dog race. They were not from this town. And then the person who organized the wiener dog races took their email address. And then the next year was like, cool. So we'll see you guys on July 4th. We actually have more wiener dogs this year. So here's all the list of it. And they were like, wait, because my friends live in California, to be clear. And then they were like, all right, fuck it. So they went back to the same town and they were the announcers again on the wiener dog races. And if I remember right, my friends Eli and Chad wound up doing this for like a dozen years, where I think the person didn't realize they weren't from town and they would fly from Los Angeles to go commentate wiener dog races on a beach in Oregon in a town they had no connection to every year.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. That seemed like the type of thing where I wouldn't have been shocked if you were like, oh yeah, that's actually like one of my close relatives is the person who does it. You have that vibe.
Yeah, no, that's really cool though. They have, let's see, in a couple towns up, that in Tillamook, they have the Pig and Ford, where it's the race they have at the county fair where the guy has to wind up the old T model Ford and he has a pig, and they race the T model Fords while holding their pigs.
That sounds like an amazing thing to witness. Model Ts and and pigs. Sometimes the pigs get away. What's that famous ghost on the coast of Oregon? Do you know about it? Famous ghost, the Bandage Man or something? From my old weird New Jersey days, I remember this. It's a famous ghost. Andrea will track this down in 10 seconds. This is the exact thing Andrea lives for. Yeah, I think it's the Bandage Man. Cannon Beach? You know anything about Cannon Beach?
Yeah. I know about Cannon Beach.
They got a ghost called the Bandage Man.
They have a Bandage Man?
Yeah, they got a Bandage Man. Watch out. Next time you're at Cannon Beach, you watch out for that old Bandage Man.
What was his shtick? Was he just bandaged?
He's a bandaged man. And he's the Bandage Man.
Okay. Yeah.
Let me see. Let's look up.
It's like a mummy.
Let's see. Bandage Man terrorizes motorists on lonely highways late at night, especially teens. Or originated from Cannon Beach. He's dirty, bloody, oozing bandages cover him entirely. He stinks of rotting flesh. He walks with a strange gait as if his arms and legs are not attached, but he's fast and able to jump into the beds of pickup trucks as they pass by, off of Old Highway 101.
That's cool.
Yeah. How's comedy going in Chicago? Chicago is a great comedy town, but it's a big leap. It's a big leap as far as the pace, the size of the community from Oregon. I'm familiar with both scenes.
It's fine. It's really big.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I don't know. There's probably a reason I keep bringing up stuff from back then, because my hometown, because it's just big and I don't know how to navigate it and I don't know what I'm doing. And also I think you move to a bigger city and then your brain relaxes a little bit and then you're like, oh, this is like a bigger, I don't know how to phrase this. Comedy is like almost like a bigger genre than I even thought it was. You know, it's just everything feels bigger and I have a hard time wrapping my brain around it. And I feel old. Those are the things. But it's okay. I don't know. It's fun. I like being in like a city, like a real city, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I like the snow. It's really flat here. Man, I don't know. What do you like about Chicago?
Ooh, we got to pause there. If you ask me what I like about Chicago, that could be a whole 60 minutes. I love that city. Always have. Much love to everybody listening in Chicago. Hey, we'll be right back. Just the other day, I was talking to a friend of mine who told me that their kid wound up in a data breach. Their child. And now they have to go through and find all their kids' info and where it is showing up online. Isn't that so scary? And I was able to tell them right away, you got to know about Delete Me. Delete Me has been advertising on Beautiful Anonymous for a while, but I've also been a personal user of Delete Me for a while, and it has made me able to relax. And I don't know if you guys have picked up on this. I'm not great at relaxing. I am a very often stressed out person over nothing, let alone stuff that gets really real. Anyway, identity theft, harassment, stalking, doxing. These are things that are out there happening every day, and they are why privacy matters so much. I'm telling you right now, if you start looking into it, my guess is that more of your personal data is out there on the internet for anyone to find than you think. Your name, contact info, social security number, your home address, info about family members of yours and their addresses, as well as very often webs on how they are connected to you. All of this is being compiled by these data brokers. They sell it online. I think it's really insidious. That data, it's a commodity. They're profiting off of it. And anyone on the web can just buy your info. It's really, really wild that this is legal on any level. But now you can get proactive. You can protect your privacy. And I really think Delete Me sets the bar as far as how that is done. I exist publicly. I've made a lot of work that has a cult following. I will tell you that that's a beautiful thing. It also means that there's been a few people who have been really, really intense at times. And especially after my son was born, I realized it's not charming. I have to take action. I have to be a good dad. I have to protect my family. And I will tell you, Delete Me has given me peace of mind straight up. Anyone listening knows that I would not say this just because this is an advertisement. Straight up 100%, Delete Me has made me feel safe. I used a different service in the past, and when I signed up for Delete Me, when I tell you they found dozens of places where my info was still floating out there online that the other spots missed, that's not an exaggeration. And that's when I realized Delete Me sets the bar. They get your personal info away from these people with bad intentions, and they're doing it better than anybody else. You can sign up and provide Delete Me with exactly what info you want deleted. Their experts take it from there. And it's not just a one-time service. This is maybe my favorite thing about it. Delete Me is always working for you. They constantly monitor and remove the personal info you don't want on the internet. They send you these regular personalized privacy reports. I always go through them. It shows you where they are finding your info, what they've done to remove it. I recently got a report that said that none of the sites had added my info back in. It was the first time that happened. And I was so psyched because usually what I'm told is Delete Me goes in, finds it again, removes it again. And that is hard work, but they get out there, they do it, and it's awesome. Take control of your data. Keep your private life private. Sign up for Delete Me now at a special discount for our listeners. Today, get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/beautiful and use promo code BEAUTIFUL at checkout. The only way to get 20% off, you go to joindeleteme.com/beautiful. Enter code BEAUTIFUL at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/beautiful. The code is BEAUTIFUL.
At Ritual, we know what goes into the holiday season: the potluck planning, the gift giving, the spreadsheets. So this new year, take a moment for yourself with science-backed support that puts you first. So whether you're focusing on supporting foundational health with a clean vegan multivitamin or supporting your gut health with Symbiotic Plus, do it with 30% off your first month at ritual.com/podcast. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Thanks again to everybody who sponsors Beautiful Anonymous. Now let's finish off the phone call.
Man, I don't know. What do you like about Chicago?
I love Chicago. Chicago is a very special place to me, especially starting out as an improv guy like I did. That's just, that's always been the home of it. Generally, and even in the years when other cities are cooking more than Chicago with improv, it's still the spiritual home of all of it. So I've been out there so many times. I've performed in Chicago probably the most times out of any city that's not New York. It's probably New York, Chicago, and Philly. And I think it's a very legitimate city that moves at the pace of a city and offers everything a city has to offer. But I also think that the Midwestern nature of the people shines through
I like
So
how nice everyone is.
everyone, the base level is that people are nice. If you piss them off, they'll get pissed off for real. It's still a major city. But
Yeah.
on a base level, people want to ask you how you're doing. They want to make eye contact. They want to pat you on the back, shake your hand. Like it's a Midwestern place as much as it is in a city. Whereas in New York, you know, people will push you in front of a subway train if it gets them where they're going 30 seconds faster. In Los Angeles, everyone will ignore you if they can't suss out what you have to offer them. Like these are the cliches, but there's elements of truth with them. Whereas I think in Chicago, the base level is no. Like first things first. Let's share a drink. Let's share a laugh. Let's connect. Like there's a kindness to it.
Yeah.
And I love the people of Chicago.
Also, a lot of it kind of reminds me of Portland because in Portland's filled with a lot of like Oregonians, like people that you know are like okay, but like this feels like it's filled with a lot of it's kind of similar where it's like it's a lot of people from like Wisconsin, Illinois, like people who grew up in smaller towns or suburbs and then moved to the city.
Yeah.
So like there's a lot of people have like a small town feel, which I like because I'm from a small town, so I like that feeling a lot.
Portland's incredible. My main issue with Portland, because I love Portland to death, but my main issue with Portland is that there are constantly things happening where if you think about them for 20 seconds, they're so scary.
Oh, like what?
I remember realizing this once. I was walking over one of the bridges in Portland, having a really lovely day, and a van sped by me and then skidded out, and two guys who had just been leaning against a wall walked up to the van, and the side door of the van opened. Nobody got off the van. They never got on the van. Nobody exchanged anything from the van. And then the van sped away and the guys ran away. And I was like, oh, like something really, really weird just happened there. And if I'm willing to ignore it, then I'm standing on a lovely bridge in a picturesque city over a beautiful river. And I have a feeling a lot of being in Portland is just taking a deep breath and going, if you ignore all the constant barrage of bizarre activity buzzing around you at all times, this is kind of the most zen place in the world. But it takes a certain type of person to not just constantly be going like, wait, what the fuck are they up to? Wait, what's happening over there in that corner of the park? Wait, hold on. What's this crew all about? Like, if you are mildly concerned with things that seem off kilter, you'll be driven insane in Portland. If you can shut them out, it's actually magical.
Yeah. That's well, and there's, I mean, but this was part of my reason for leaving. I don't want to. It's such a touchy subject. It's gone from weird. It's gone from weird to a little scary and gritty, and that was part of my.
People get mad when you say it, but I've heard people who've lived there a long time express it.
Oh, it got frustrating for me because I felt like I couldn't, couldn't walk to go to comedy late at night. And because it used to be like, it was kind of like a playground for people in their like 20s and early 30s to like, because you could just walk at night. It just wasn't something you thought about. And then I had a homeless guy jack off in front of me, and then I wrote a bit about it, and then like 4 other people had the same bit. We all had the same thing happen because it just kept happening, and then it was frustrating because it was like, but you can't, if you talk about it, then people look at you like you're, I don't know what they think, but like it's like not okay to comment on it, and it was kind of infuriating, and it was really frustrating. It was like, I don't know. I was like, I got really frustrated dealing with that. And is it okay that I'm saying this stuff?
Say whatever you want to say. Nobody knows your name. You
okay.
Say this is the place where you can say it. And if you piss off the entire city of Portland and all of a sudden I see a bunch of downloads from Portland because everybody's getting mad and passing it around, that's a win for both of us, baby.
Okay.
I get those
Okay. Well,
sweet,
I don't
sweet
want to piss
numbers, and you
you
get to get
off
some shit
'cause
off your chest.
okay.
Let's get the
Well,
numbers
I just
flying high, baby.
okay, good. It just made me mad because it just really felt like there was like 2 years where because Portland's so sensitive to stuff where we took all the Me Too stuff really seriously. And so it was like it just felt like anybody that had any uncomfortable experience if you were female, there was like an army. I thought it was too much. It was too much. But then like it felt like a year later you could be like I feel unsafe like I feel like I'm going to be a victim of a crime unsafe because
Yeah.
it was just so bad. Like the streets got so bad where it's like, this isn't even like someone looked at me weird. This is like, I'm like scared
Right.
and it's like, you're not even allowed to say it out loud.
Right.
And it just made me feel really angry and frustrated. And I
Well,
was like, I don't know.
I'm with you. Like,
Sorry.
but it's also like commendable instincts leading the charge. So I don't want to be a wet blanket on the instincts of anyone who's out here, but you sit here and you go, people who are trying to build a utopia do have an agenda. And if something doesn't match that agenda,
Right.
then it gets chased away. But you sit here and go, well, if you're trying to build a space that's safe for everybody, that is beautiful and commendable, but if and a lot of this ties into the treatment of people who don't have roofs over their heads. I know that in Portland, there was a lot of,
Right.
let's destigmatize drug addiction and build harm reduction centers. And then I have a friend who's very invested in that world who, as it was described to me, was like, drugs were decriminalized, but there was no actual safety net or plan on how to provide actual
Yeah.
harm reduction for the people. It's one thing to say, like, we don't want addicts to be vilified or to live as if they have a scarlet letter. It's another thing to say drugs are illegal now, but there's no actual social programs in place to help people navigate addiction. Like, and if the quest to create a space that's safe for everybody means that you're actually not allowed to express a feeling that you're unsafe, I think you and while I'm less invested in it, not having lived there, I would put myself in here as well. I go, if the quest to build a utopian level of safe space means that you can't express fear or a lack of safety, at a certain point, it's crossing a threshold is it actually accomplishing any of the things that it's aiming for at its heart, which I think is a good heart. But one thing that I'm really becoming more aware of, and I hope I don't sound like a Rogan bro in saying it, is we are often also in such a quest to reduce everything to 140 characters, to a buzzword, to a hashtag. And I sit here and I go, well, if conversations can't have any nuance, I'm of the opinion that I don't want to participate in those conversations. If the conversation starts with pick a side and start fighting, that's not the reality I want to live in anymore. And more, that's where we're at. And I think that there's some form of that that's happening with a lot of the social media movements. They bring so much stuff to light. They have done a world of good so often. So I want to be very careful in poo-pooing them. But anything that needs to be boiled down to a hashtag, and then we play by the parameters of the hashtag instead of a discussion that leads to actual growth or change, I'm so wary of at this point.
Yeah. But then it's hard. I feel like there's two, because it almost feels like everything. Okay, so like the nuance thing, like a nuanced conversation.
Yeah.
Are so good, but trained at taking the nuance and making it. Okay, I'm trying to give an example because I don't want to. But like the okay, so there's some people on the right that are really good at like the dog whistles or whatever, where it's like, oh, okay, you're right. So if that's a logical point, and then they'll just take it to where it's like, so that's why we need to kill all the homeless people. You're right. Like, it's like they're really good at kind of leading people, and they don't even realize it, to these kind of conclusions that are awful. And it's like, so I don't know. I feel like it's conversation and then some kind of, I don't know if it's like fact checking or some kind of, I don't know. I don't know what it is.
I think it's only going to get darker
But
or scarier. The more
yeah,
the more that these self-obsessed oddballs are in charge of the platforms where the discussion happens. I think it's only going to get,
yeah,
I think it's going to get a lot weirder before it gets any better. Because I'm with you. I do think there's so many, especially with young men, you read on the studies right now, there's so many people that are like, oh, on TikTok or podcasts or these platforms that are like, yeah, I'm saying a thing that feels logical. I'm saying a thing that feels logical. And then the next thing you know, your kid is joining the fucking Oath Keepers. And you're like, how did that happen? That's not the values that our family was raised with. Like, I do think you're right. Like,
yeah.
but I think
Because they're
also
all little half steps.
all these little baby steps towards something. And then you go, oh, and you don't even realize that like an impressionable younger person has now come to almost sort of feel comfort under an umbrella that they never intended to even stand under. But they already feel comfortable and safe there before they even realize it exists. It's insidious. And then I also think too, on the side of the fence, I think a lot of the soul searching happening for people who share values closer to mine is like, well, there's also an online type of progressivism that seems to be more about like having said something, like scoring points for having said something that was right and enjoying the dopamine kick that it gives your brain to have been right, and not admitting that that has
Right.
almost no impact on the actual real world around you. To have been right on the internet, to have been correct about something on the internet does not actually affect change in a way that elections have proved recently. And that's heartbreaking, that you're just shouting into a void and patting yourself on the back for doing it. Like, no, you got to get out in your community for real, it turns out. And it's scary and it's sad. I love that was your answer to how do you like Chicago, was basically talking about the social downfall of Portland in a way that was weird.
I know. I can go on that for. Wait, can I tell you one more thing? And then we'll switch, because this, I don't know. I feel like I talk about this because with comedy, you just end up talking about. I feel like this so much. I hate that comedy is become a weird epicenter of this stuff.
The canary, the canary in the coal mine for all sorts of very touchy, larger conversations in society. It is annoying.
I will say that I think that another issue, because I feel like being a comedian in Portland, especially like when I started, like 8 years ago, was really kind of the height of having to be really careful what you said on stage. And we had a lot of comics like make fun of it now, but they had a lot of like safe rooms, right, where you weren't allowed to make fun of marginalized groups of any kind. But it was like, at that point, it was to the point that you couldn't make fun of qualities about yourself. If they, like, I'm kind of a fat person. I wasn't allowed to make fun of myself for being fat, because that would be like an internalized thing. So it was a little, but one thing I really bothered me was that, so this was, they weren't, like, it was really trendy at the time, and it's going away, but the like fuck boomers.
Yeah.
So it was like really acceptable and progressive even to go on stage and be like, oh, fuck boomers, I hope they all die. And it was off. My dad was dying. It was awful. Like, and I couldn't say, I felt like, because I was so new, I couldn't say anything. But they were like just so heavily policing what you could and couldn't say about certain groups. But then other groups were off, it doesn't, but these groups we've decided it's fine. And in fact, good. to shit on them. And it was like for me, it was like a terrible, it wasn't a good experience because it was like, fuck boomers, fuck men, they should all die. And like, that was like my best friend was dying.
Yeah.
And it sucked.
Well, and again, like I was
And
saying
I feel
before,
like I've held that.
Yeah, I bet you did hold that. That will create a
Or
personal
like
anger
kind of
that I get.
resentment a little bit.
Yeah. When you have a boomer,
Sorry, go ahead.
well, when you have a boomer aged male dying in your life, and then you're in rooms where it feels like a trend to have a self-satisfied, like all boomer men should die, and you're like, but I gotta go to a hospital tomorrow and like maybe say goodbye to a boomer male in my life. Like, I get it, but it ties back into what I was saying before of like anything that becomes a catchphrase or a hashtag, I'm just so wary of any actual value, let alone its place in creative arts. You know?
That's why I think one thing, I'm going to try to start journaling because I feel like we just kind of regurgitate stuff so much that we see and hear, and then it becomes like, is this even is life experience for anyone, or are we just regurgitating things that we like see on TV or the internet or whatever? And I feel like, and people worry about, AI comedy or whatever. And I don't know about that, but I do feel like a much more honest place, and I'm going to try to start doing it, is just being quiet and observing and just kind of journaling and trying to make comedy out of that.
I'm with you.
So that it's based in real life observations and experiences.
And it's based in you. Because like you said, to me, like even thinking outside the social pressure of everything you're describing, I'm like, when it becomes like, hey, you're allowed to say fuck boomers, so everybody has a fuck boomers joke. I go, just on a comedic level, that's hacky. In the same way that like a lot of shitheads who have anti-trans material, I'm like, whether or not you agree with it, which I do not, I think it's fucking gross. But I'm also like, if I'm hearing the 9th anti-trans joke that I've heard from 9 different comics this year, that means 8 of them are fucking hacky. Whatever happened to that? That like the topic's been dealt with, it's been touched. So walk away from it and find something more original. This idea that it's like, hey, we all dwell in the same certain places. Like, if we're calling out comedy bullshit, I sit here and I go like, if a topic's been gotten to, go find another topic and challenge yourself. Like, let's start playing by that old rule again. Like, well, how come there's so many comics that sound like Kate Berlant? Kate Berlant already talks like Kate Berlant. Conor O'Malley's awesome. I'm glad he's getting all the press he's getting. He deserves it. But that doesn't mean I need to see like 100 baby Conor O'Malley's all over the internet. He's already crushing it. Do your own thing. Write in your own journal. Do your soul searching. Figure out what you have to say and go say it in the same way that those people you admire do. We all love Tim Robinson's sketch show. It's fucking incredible. I think You Should Leave is the best. But how many internet sketches do I have to see that's just people getting fucking clicks doing their fake version of Tim Robinson sketches? And that's not even to say like, fuck you to anybody for doing it. It's to say, if you have the motivation to put stuff out there in the world, I just so firmly believe that you have the ability to find the thing that speaks truly to you. So go find that. Go find that, because everybody's just very happy to exist in these like little micro bubbles that they see working. But what happened to, and again, I don't want to be like grumbly old man comedy, but I'm like, I'd rather see 8 original voices on a row, on a show. I'd rather see 8 original voices. And the thing that unites them is, whoa, everybody had something to say. Everybody was figuring out the way to say it. That's the common thread versus they all vaguely sound the same, or they're all playing within the same parameters of what's okay to say and what's not. And the last thing I'll say on that is I sit here and I go, we can't allow that to become real, because it's not like, you go up and say whatever you say, and whatever you want to say into a microphone, say it. But just know that if everybody gets mad at you, you got to take a deep breath and accept that. You don't get to be a baby and tell people they're not allowed to get mad. And also, we probably should spend less time avoiding people, like circumnavigating people getting mad. Because if you can get close to getting people mad and then not actually get them mad, that probably means you have them thinking and you have them feeling something, and you might be just on the side of right. So this idea that some people go, hey, don't even go towards a topic, it's not appropriate. I'm like, that's not too far away from going, I'm going to say whatever the fuck I want and nobody's allowed to get mad because I'm creative. Like, no. Let's keep it more simple. Get creative. Try some shit. If you piss people off, have enough skin to just own the fact, shit, that pissed people off. Do I stand by it or do I want to say sorry? Be a grown-up and figure out which one. Get better. If you think there's something to it that is worth fighting for in terms of your creativity, in our case, our jokes, figure out how to make the joke better so that they don't get mad and your point gets across better. Like, let's not... I just think creative people have to be so careful right now of like, don't fall into the traps of the way the algorithm pushes these dialogues, and also don't stop trying to exploit them for fleeting glimpses at short-term success at the expense of the long-term health of actual creativity as a whole. And I know that sounds fucking melodramatic, but I don't know. Also, I'm not nearly as relevant as I used to be. And thank God for that. I mean, the sexy clowns will lead us all. The sexy clowns will lead us wherever we need to go. All right? But I hate that we even need to think this hard about fucking comedy. Just go out. Make jokes. If they piss people off, let people get pissed off and decide how you want to react to that. Don't pretend they don't have a right to get pissed off. Also, if you want to make a joke that pisses people off, you should be allowed to do that too. Some of the jokes I love most in the world really pissed people off. But most of all...
But then sometimes...
Yeah, you
sometimes,
say...
Well, like, I like stuff that kind of pisses people off. But then sometimes someone goes on stage and they just have the cleanest, least provocative jokes, and they're so fresh and funny and original that you're like, why the hell am I getting everybody riled up? I could be, you know what I mean? Because they're just so well written that you're like, oh, I could just do this, and not if I knew how. You know, that's the other thing is anytime you switch, it's like, well, then you have to suck for a while. Don't know how to do it.
I also don't want to come off like I'm preaching to you, because I don't know how long you've been doing it, but I would just say as somebody who's...
Oh, no, preach. I could use all the preaching.
Well, I'm also someone who's been doing it for so long that I'm actively doing less and less comedy because I'm getting too old. But I will say, for you to say, like, I want to spend more time sitting with my journal, writing down my thoughts, figuring out the fresh take on stuff, I go, that's the exact step that everybody needs to take at some point. And that, I think, is becoming a little bit lost in the arts, because now there's a little bit more of, let's analyze. Okay, crowd work's really working. Let me get out there and do some crowd work. Okay, these Q&As are working. Let's go out and do some Q&As. Okay, stuff about trans people is working. Let me find my trans joke. I go, that's writing to the unoriginal part of it. The success, the proven part.
Yeah.
It's the unproven part that is interesting and unique and fun. And that's what happens when you sit with your journal and go, I don't think anybody else has had this idea, and I don't think anybody else could do this except me. I got to go try it. And it might bomb.
Right.
It might bomb 50 times. But on the 51st time, if I can get it to work, now I have that. And nobody else has that. And that's how you become a fucking Maria Bamford, a Tig Notaro, a Roy Wood Jr. Like, that's how Nikki Glaser becomes Nikki Glaser right now, having this fucking huge cultural impact moment. I'm like, I've known Nikki Glaser for probably 15 years at this point, and she's always been just relentlessly chipping away at being more and more Nikki Glaser, you know? And I don't know Nikki all that well, but I've always had very warm interactions with her when we see each other. And I'm just super proud to see there's a perfect example of someone that, like, She's hosting the Golden Globes, and everybody who's known her can tell you, like, yes, she's been chipping away at that like a fucking sculptor for 15 years, 20 years to just become more and more undeniably herself. No one else can touch that right now. She gets to have that moment. Nate Bargatze, same thing. I used to do shows with Nate in fucking weird bars in Queens, and he was the guy who worked clean, and he always wore a baseball hat back then, you know? And everybody loved Nate, and he has just worked relentlessly at being the only Nate Bargatze, and now he gets to host SNL. It's fucking cool. And those are some of the people I look to who are massively successful right now, but aren't just going, let me throw more fuel on these fires that burn hottest, but they also burn quickest. And they also are empty calories. Anyway, our time is up, and you got me ranting about comedy. Apologies
that's
to
okay.
anybody.
This was awesome.
No, I hope you crush it in Chicago. Chicago always has waves of cool people that come through, and I'm psyched you're going to be one of the next ones.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Thanks. This was really. I was so nervous. I had so much fun.
Oh no! Who knew that talking about floating glass net holders would lead to such a passionate discussion of the nature of art?
Who knew? Yeah. Oh, and I get a message that lady. Oh, and then that's just relieved. Oh, that's going to be so good.
You have to. That's unforgivable that you have not done. You got to get that one. Give yourself that.
Okay.
Let's just let that one go. Now, do you have a few minutes to hang out behind the paywall and answer some random questions that have been submitted by people all over the world?
Yeah, sure.
Caller, thank you so much for that call that went in so many different directions where I never knew what we were going to talk about next. That got philosophical, that got funny at times, that got very, very random at others. What a joy. Thank you so much to our producer, Andrea Quinn. Thank you to Shellshag for the theme music. Go to punchup.live/Chris Gethard if you want tickets to my shows, especially to that show hosted by Chris Gethard at the UCB Theater in New York, which has streaming tickets and live tickets. You can't get these tickets. Keep selling out months ahead of time. Thank you guys for that. Hugely flattering. Got a voicemail line. It's 973-306-4676. We're on Instagram at Beautiful Anonymous Pod. Join the Facebook discussion group at Beautiful Anonymous, the community. And we just got a TikTok. It's Beautiful.Anonymous. This week on Beautiful Anonymous Plus, here's some of what you'll get from the 5 questions. First question, what is your favorite candy or chocolate?
Oh, my favorite candy, I really like the Starburst, strawberry Starburst, or tropical Starburst.
Ooh. Now, I've always been a yellow. I always lean yellow and orange with my Starburst.
Really? I always give those ones away. I'm like, who eats these? You do.
The yellow and orange side of the line, I have found it's divisive. You have people who are either like, yeah, no, of course, that is Starburst. Or you have people that are like, you are 100% missing out on the Starburst experience because of your dedication to yellow.
Okay, so I know that I'm right. I know this is subjective, but I'm right.
Okay.
With my pick because they have a Reds only Starburst bag. They don't make a shitty flavors only bag. They make a good flavors only bag, and it's the red ones.
Don't forget to sign up for Beautiful Anonymous Plus at beautifulanonymous.com.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to TalkSpace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at TalkSpace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at TalkSpace.com.